Hey, what's up guys? I'm Crit, and today I'm gonna show you how I got past floor 1 and 2 in Epic 7. Just a couple of disclaimers before I start. This is going to be an in-depth guide on floor 102, so it'll be quite long. However, I will try to skip on redundant information that is not necessary for the specific strat and comp that I used. I will also use some specific terms, and if you do not know them, worry not, because I will put their meaning in the description below, so you don't have to go crazy just to understand what I'm trying to say. Finally, I would like to clarify that this floor can be cleared in multiple ways, and this is just my own take on 102. But if you have the units and wanna give it a try, then sure, why not? It may end up working for you. Okay, so let's take a quick look at floor 102 first. The floor is divided in two separate fights, as most of the Abyss floors are. You might think that the first fight is gonna be the usual trash fight that happens before the real boss fight begins. This time, however, it will not be the case. The second fight is gonna be the final and real boss fight of this floor, and it's also going to be a real RNG fest. But luckily for us, the RNG can be somewhat contained on this floor, and we will definitely take advantage of that. Let's take a look at the team comp that I chose for this floor. I'll start with the tank unit, which is General Purgis. This guy is here to function as a literal striking dummy for the enemies, so that our whole team can take advantage of his passive CR boosting ability. Since this unit is gonna soak most of the damage, hopefully, he is of course spec'd to be as tanky as possible, and in my case, I gave him a full HP set. So basically, I just used the set that I also use for Wyvern 13. Aside from getting his face punched, Purgis S3 could come in handy to CC ads, and the same goes for his provoke effect on the S1. However, if you want to ever make that happen, a bit of effectiveness into his build is recommended. The artifact that I used on him was Proof of Valor, just to decrease a bit the damage taken. The second unit is gonna be our ultimate healing waifu, Roana. As you probably already know, she's mostly a passive healer that can heal our whole team whenever an enemy uses a counterattack. This may not be so useful in the first fight, however, it will actually be key in the second half of the floor. The shield on her S1 is also a nice bonus, and her S3 can keep the party member topped off during the first fight, and can function as a safety net during the second fight, thanks to its revive buff. This unit's also gonna be running a full HP gear set, as its healing scales accordingly to her own HP. The set becomes even better when coupled with the Touch of Rikoris artifact, which allows even more AoE healing on the team. Now it is time for our DPS unit to shine. And as such, our third team member is going to be Rikoris, our main DPS for this floor. The thing about this specific 3-star unit, and what also makes her so good in many Abyss floors, is that she only does one thing, but she does it extremely well, and that is, she stacks poisons on bosses. This will be in fact her only function during this whole floor. Beside the single target poisons, she can also extend debuffs on the enemies with her S2, and that includes debuffs applied by other team members, so she can really combo off other unit CCs. For the gear, I just went for a speed plus effectiveness set, as this helped her in landing her poisons and getting more turns overall. I also decided to give Rikoris the Sword of Judgment artifact to increase her poison's output. Our final team member will be Billion. I know, this will probably sound strange to you, since she's mainly a PvP unit, but I chose her anyway, since she was fitting the debuffer/DPS role pretty well for this floor. Plus, I did not have many good alternatives available at the time. The nice thing about Belian is that she can offer so much support, while also being tanky and hard to kill. Plus, all of her skills are AoE skills, so she can debuff the whole enemy team with a single attack. It just so happens that all of Belian's skills are useful in some way on this floor. The S1 can help reducing the enemy team's output by removing buffs from them, and this is especially useful in the first fight. The S1 extra attack has a high chance to proc every time the S1 is used, and can inflict several debilitating debuffs on the enemy team. And finally, the S3 can provoke enemies, while also increasing Belian's defense, essentially making them waste a turn. I gave my Belian a lifesteal plus crit set, to give her more survivability while also allowing her to deal a bit more damage. Finally, I ended up giving her the Elbereth's Ritual Sword artifact, to increase chances of debuffing the enemy team by landing more S1s. Let's see now some good alternatives that could be used as a replacement for mines, just in case you don't have the ones I used. General Purgis could be replaced, for example, by Adventurer Russ, which is a free-to-play unit that brings a defense break and a defense up buff alongside a buff strip. Cecilia with all her AoE debuffs is another great fire option, as it is Ravi with her stuns. I think you already noticed a trend in all these units. They are all very bulky and offer great support for the team. For the healer slot, I'm sorry, but I don't think you can find anything better than Roana for this floor. However, Tamarin, Scholar Doris, and Angelic Montmorency and other powerful healers are indeed viable options. The Kiri slot can only really be challenged by one single other unit, which is Spectre Tenebria. If you happen to have her, don't even bother about building Kiris, but if you don't, remember that Kiris is basically free to play. The last slot on the team is very flexible. If you don't have Belian, don't worry, basically any bulky DPS will do just fine. Better, of course, if it also brings some kind of support. Some examples could be again Fire Ravi and all-rounder Wanda thanks to their stuns. The Spectre Tenebria plus Kiri's route is also an option if you want to double down on the poison's output. Overall, see what is already available to you and try to play around this slot. Okay, let's talk about the first fight now. There will be 3 enemies in this first half of the floor. Rikoris, which will be the boss, and it will be accompanied by Mascot Hazel and a big red robot. There are several mechanics overall in this first fight, but let's see the core ones and how to counter them effectively. Rikoris will sit there, mainly just giving buffs and using single target attacks. Once in a while he will unleash his S3, which can be annoying as it has a high chance of taunting each of your party members for a turn. The nice thing is that he does not deal a ton of damage. Hazel is basically there just to buff the allies and to give annoying barriers. But there is a catch. Every 5 attacks she receives, she will trigger a hidden Rikoris ability that will give everyone on the field a single skill nullifier buff, enemies included. Finally, there is the robot. This guy hits like a truck your whole team every 2 turns it takes. So what's the strat for dealing with these 3? Basically, all the fight revolves around triggering the skill nullifier buff from Rikoris in order to survive the robot AoE Nuke, Rikoris will be the only one that will attack Rikoris directly, and will slowly kill him with her poisons. The rest of the team is mostly going to attack Hazel instead, to get the skill nullifier up for the team. Once the skill nullifier has been consumed by the robot big attack, you will need to focus Hazel once again to get a new one up for the next big hit. After that, this is basically a rinse and repeat until Rikoris gets poisoned to death. Now a few tips for a more reliable clear strategy. First of all, use your CCs from both Belian and Purgis. These will help a lot in reducing the enemy team's efficiency. The second one is, do not be afraid to use long cooldown skills like Roana's ultimate. Just make sure you have them ready for when you are about to kill Rikoris. The final tip, and also the most important one in my opinion, is that you can actually get a skill nullifier on your team just before phasing out to the next fight. This is not required, of course, but it will be an amazing buff to start the next fight with. Okay, now that we passed the first battle, it's time for the real deal, the final boss, Celine. As I said at the beginning of the video, this final fight involves quite a lot of RNG, and a single round of bad luck could send your Kiris packing, and that would probably mean starting the floor all over again. Knowing this, we will try to avoid and control RNG situations as much as possible. So what's up with this boss? There will be in fact 3 enemies yet again. Celine, which will be the main boss with 2 support robots on her back. Now, I know that most guides tend to CC the robots a lot to prevent them from ever taking a turn. However, I did not find them particularly dangerous. The 2 robots are in fact annoying, to say the least. They will buff the enemy team while debuffing yours, but they will most likely not wipe you. The only robot that should be CC'd when possible is the golden one, which can remove all debuffs from the enemy team. The real problem of this fight is Celine and her blink counterattack. Her main mechanic revolves around a stance counter that can be found below her health bar, and can go up to 3. Every time in fact she gets hit by one attack, she will shift her stance toward a higher number. So from 1 to 2, from 2 to 3, and then from 3 back to 1 again. The moment you decide to use a non-damaging skill, her blink ability will activate, and she will perform a high damage counterattack according to her current stance number. If she is in the first stance, her blink strike will hit your team member with the highest attack. If she is on stance 2, she will randomly attack any of your team members. But if she is on stance 3, she will attack instead the unit that has the most HP on your team, and this is where we want her to act. So in short, we want to use non-damaging skills only when Celine is in her stance number 3. By doing so, we ensure that Purgis will get hit, and consequently will give the whole team a CR push. If you still have a skill nullifier up from the previous battle, this is exactly where it can give you an edge, as it ensures that if, for whatever reason, Celine decides to use her blink ability on anyone else that it isn't Purgis, the unit hit will survive. The other things to know about Celine are that she will phase out at 40% health and instantly cleanse herself from all debuffs, as well as give the 2 robots one unremovable buff each. And lastly, her S3 hits really hard and removes all debuffs from Celine, so it is recommended to have the Roana's revive buff up. And her S1 has also a good chance of stunning the target, so it is also annoying. Now let's talk about Roana's importance for a second. Roana is basically the MVP in this fight. Every time Celine decides to use her blink, she will be there to counter-heal your whole team. Now that we know everything about the final battle, And according to the strategy, let's focus on what the flow of the battle should be like. The first thing we need to do is trying to get as many poison stacks as possible on Celine, while also trying to use non-damaging skills only when she is on her stance number 3. All of this while also trying to keep the 2 ads in the back CC'd with Belian and Purgis, whenever possible. Finally, if you can kill Celine before she phases out at 40%, that would be great. But if you cannot due to missed poisons and general stuff going bad, then go for Archie spam to quickly burn her remaining health. And this was all for this infamous fight. The floor is definitely not one of the easiest, but with some luck and by playing around the RNG correctly, I'm sure you can get it done. Thanks again for watching, and I hope this was helpful. A like on the video would be much appreciated if you enjoyed it and also found it useful. Also, this is kinda the first time I do any kind of voiceover, so if you have any feedback to leave me on how to improve, I would gladly take it. Just tell me in the comment section. Good luck with your clear and have a great day. Catch you on the next one. Bye!